I'm standing in the rain right now, barefoot on the cold pavement outside Skyline Heights. My hair is plastered to my face, and I'm clutching a garbage bag with the only clothes I could grab. I'm screaming at a lit window 14 floors up, and I don't care that neighbors are recording this on their phones from their balconies. Security is trying to calm me down, but I can't stop. I'm not crying from sadness. I'm shaking with pure rage. My throat is raw, but I keep yelling his name. 6 months ago, I was the queen of my own little world. Now I'm standing here like a beggar, locked out of what was supposed to be my dream home. How did I let this happen to me? Let me pause this nightmare for a second. 6 months ago, my life looked completely different. I had a small apartment in the West End, the kind with creaky floors and a kitchen the size of a closet. But it was mine. The walls were painted bright yellow, and I had plants everywhere. I ran a catering business from that tiny kitchen, and people loved my food. My door was always open. Lisa would drop by with wine. Auntie Rose would bring her sewing and stay for hours. I was tired sometimes, sure. Running your own business is hard work. But I was happy. I was free. If someone told me back then that I would end up screaming in the rain outside a luxury apartment, I would have laughed in their face. My name is Maya, and I've been feeding people my whole life. My mama taught me that food is love, and love is everything. After she passed, I kept her recipes alive through my catering business. I called it Maya's Kitchen, and it was small but growing. Every weekend, I cooked for weddings, birthday parties, church events. My van had my logo painted on the side. Was small but growing. Every weekend, I cooked for weddings, birthday parties, church events. My van had my logo painted on the side. It wasn't much, but it was mine. My neighbors knew me. The corner store owner saved me the best vegetables. I had roots in my community. But on lonely nights, I'd sit on my balcony and wonder if I'd always be alone. I was strong, everyone said so. But being strong all the time is exhausting. I wanted someone to share the load with. I wanted a partner. Then Elias walked into my life like a movie scene. He called me for catering for a corporate event at his logistics company. When I arrived with the food, he watched me set up, and I could feel his eyes on me the whole time. After everyone ate, he came over and told me it was the best meal he'd ever had. He was handsome, the kind of handsome that turns heads. Tall, well-dressed, with a smile that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. He drove a sleek black car and wore expensive watches. We started talking, and he told me about his dreams of building an empire. But what really got me was how he talked about us. Not just me, not just him. Us. He said I deserved better than that cramped kitchen. He said we should move in together to a place that matched my talent. He made me feel seen. When I told my people about Elias, the reactions were mixed. Lisa was thrilled. She kept saying I was finally leveling up, that I deserved a man like him. She was already planning double dates and talking about the fancy apartment. But Auntie Rose stayed quiet. We had dinner at my place, and I invited Elias so they could meet. He was charming, telling stories and complimenting Rose's earrings. But Rose barely smiled. When Elias went to take a phone call, Lisa nudged me excitedly. Rose looked at me across the table and said quietly, "A house with a big gate keeps bad people out, baby. But it can also keep good people in." I felt a chill, but I pushed it away. I thought Rose was just being overprotective. I thought she didn't want me to outgrow our neighborhood. I chose the excitement over the warning. The lease signing happened on a Tuesday. We met the landlord at a cafe near Skyline Heights. The building was stunning, all glass and steel, with a doorman and security cameras everywhere. The apartment was on the 14th floor with a view of the whole city. When the landlord pushed the papers toward us, Elias laughed and patted his pockets. He said he forgot his ID at home. Can you believe it? He looked at me with those eyes and said it would be easier if I signed for now, just for the paperwork. He promised he'd handle all the rent payments. I hesitated for maybe 5 seconds. Then I signed my name on every line. To afford the deposit, I had to sell my catering van. Elias said not to worry. He said we'd buy a better one next month, something bigger that matched my growing brand. I handed over the keys to my freedom that day, but I thought I was trading up. Moving day felt like the start of a new chapter. The apartment was even more beautiful than I remembered. Marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, a kitchen with brand-new appliances. Elias popped a bottle of champagne, and we toasted to our future. He pulled out a gift bag and handed me a brand-new phone. He said, "New life, new number. Let's focus on us and build something amazing together." It felt romantic, like we were cutting ties with the past and starting fresh. I transferred my contacts and turned off my old phone. That night, we stood on the balcony looking at the city lights, and I felt like I was on top of the world. The door to the apartment had a heavy lock, the kind that clicks loudly when it shuts. I remember hearing that sound and feeling safe. Now I realize the click sounded more like a trap snapping shut. The first few weeks were like a honeymoon. Elias would make me breakfast before he left for work. We painted an accent wall together and argued playfully about what color to choose. He'd come home with flowers. We'd watch movies on the huge TV and fall asleep on the couch. But small things started to feel off. When I mentioned inviting Auntie Rose over, he said, "Let's wait until we finish decorating. I want her to see it perfect." When I suggested going out to my favorite restaurant in my old neighborhood, he said, "Let's save money for the new van, babe. We can cook here." Everything had a reason that sounded good on the surface. Then one morning, I tried to connect to the Wi-Fi to check my business emails. The password didn't work. I called Elias, and he said he changed it for security. He'd text me the new one later. He forgot for 3 days. I wanted to get my catering business running again. I missed cooking for people. I missed the phone ringing with orders. But when I started cooking a big batch of jerk chicken for a client, Elias came home and wrinkled his nose. He said the smell was too strong, that the apartment was too nice to smell like a restaurant. He suggested I take a break, let him provide for a while, let us get settled. I felt a knot in my stomach, but I agreed to pause for a bit. He moved all my cooking supplies into the utility closet, a tiny room off the kitchen. He said the living room needed to stay presentable because he had clients coming over sometimes. My pots and pans were shoved into a space so small I had to crouch to reach them. I was living in a palace, but I felt like I was shrinking. The money thing started small. I went to the grocery store to buy food for the week, filled up a cart, and went to pay. My card declined. I tried again. Declined. My face got hot with embarrassment as the cashier waited. I called Elias, trying to laugh it off. He said he moved our funds into a high-yield savings account for our future. He said it was smart financial planning. He told me he'd give me cash every week for groceries and essentials. That week, he gave me $80. I stared at the bills in my hand and tried to make it make sense. Before Elias, I was making my own money, paying my own rent. Now I was asking for grocery money like a teenager asking for allowance. When I bought milk and bread, he asked for the receipt. He wanted to track our spending, he said. I gave him the receipt. I gave him everything he asked for. The dinner that broke something in me happened on a Thursday. I came out of the utility closet where I'd been organizing my old equipment. Elias was at the table with a beautiful steak, cooked perfectly, with roasted vegetables on the side. My mouth watered. I sat down, and he placed a bowl in front of me. Instant noodles. The cheap kind, the ones that cost 50 cents. I stared at it. He smiled and said, "We need to be disciplined with the budget, babe. We're saving for that vacation, remember?" He cut into his steak, and the smell filled the apartment. I watched him eat. He didn't offer me a single bite. I picked up my fork and ate the noodles. They tasted like nothing. Like shame. Like I was nothing. I swallowed every bite while he told me about his day. That night, I cried in the bathroom with the water running so he wouldn't hear. I started noticing things about the building. The security guard, Mr. Henderson, was an older black man with kind eyes. He always greeted me by name. One afternoon, I came back from a walk and my keycard wouldn't work at the front entrance. I tried it 5 times. Mr. Henderson saw me struggling and let me in manually. As he walked me to the elevator, he said quietly, "Miss Meyer, I've been working here for years. You're the 3rd young lady Mr. Elias has brought to this building." I stopped walking. He looked at me seriously. I felt my blood turn cold. I asked him what he meant. He just shook his head. "I've said too much already. But you seem like good people. Be careful. The elevator doors closed, and I rode up in silence. I found the earring on a Sunday. I was vacuuming under the couch cushions and felt something small and hard. I pulled out a gold hoop earring, the expensive kind. I don't wear hoops. My ears aren't even pierced. I held it in my hand and felt dizzy. When Elias got home, I showed it to him. I tried to keep my voice calm. I asked whose it was. He looked at it, and for a second, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Then his face changed. He said his sister had visited last week when I was out walking. I didn't know he had a sister. He pulled out his phone and showed me a photo of a woman who could maybe be related to him. Then his eyes got wet. He said he couldn't believe I didn't trust him after everything he'd done for me. He said he worked so hard to give me this life, and this is how I repaid him. By the end of the conversation, I was the one apologizing. I was comforting him. I put the earring in the trash myself. Auntie Rose tried to visit. I saw her on the doorbell camera app on my phone. She was standing at the building entrance with a bag of groceries. My heart jumped. I missed her so much it hurt. I was about to buzz her in when Elias came up behind me. He looked at the screen and said he had a terrible headache, that he needed quiet. He asked me not to let her up, just for today. He'd meet her another time. I watched Rose ring the bell again. My phone was in my pocket, buzzing with her calls. I didn't answer. I watched her wait for 10 minutes, then leave. I stood at the window and saw her small figure walking away down the street, carrying those groceries she'd brought for me. I felt like I was watching my lifeline walk away. The air in the apartment felt thin. I was so high up, but I couldn't breathe. I finally asked Elias about the van. It had been 3 months. Every time I brought it up, he had an excuse. The dealership didn't have the model we wanted. He was waiting for his bonus. We needed to save more. But that night, I pushed. I needed the van to restart my business. I needed something that was mine. He got quiet. Then he said we didn't need a van right now. He said I didn't need to work. I felt panic rising. I said I wanted to work. I needed to work. I stood up and said I was going to stay with Auntie Rose for a few days to think. I went to the bedroom and started packing a bag. Elias appeared in the doorway. His face was different. Cold. He stood in front of the door and crossed his arms. He said, "You're not going anywhere." I tried to push past him. He didn't move. Then he said the words that made my blood freeze. "You have no car. You have no money. You have no home without me. Who's going to want you back now?" The next morning, I woke up to the smell of pancakes. Elias was at the stove, humming like nothing had happened. He brought me breakfast in bed with orange juice and strawberries. He kissed my forehead and said he was sorry for losing his temper. He pulled out a brochure for a van, the exact model I'd wanted. He said we'd go look at it on Saturday. He had the money ready. He just wanted to surprise me. I looked at his face, so sincere, so loving. I wanted to believe him so badly. I thought maybe I'd overreacted. Maybe I'd been ungrateful. He held me, and I let myself relax. The tension in my chest loosened. I thought the nightmare was over. I thought we'd turned a corner. Saturday was only 3 days away. I could wait 3 days. But I should have known. Saturday was a lifetime away. Friday night, Elias said he was going out with his co-workers. A networking thing. He'd be back late. I said okay. After he left, I couldn't shake a feeling. I remembered the tracking app he'd installed on my phone months ago. He said it was for safety, so we could always find each other. I opened the app and looked at his location. He wasn't at a restaurant or a bar where you do networking. The pin showed he was at a nightclub across town. I watched the dot stay there for hours. He came home at 2 in the morning, smelling like perfume and alcohol. I asked him how networking went. He said it was fine and headed straight to the bedroom. I heard the lock click. He locked me out of my own bedroom. I stood in the hallway, staring at that locked door, and something inside me finally cracked. I'd been bending, and I'd finally snapped. Saturday morning, my phone rang. It was Lisa. She was crying. She said Auntie Rose had called her because she couldn't reach me. My mama had a stroke. She was in the hospital. I needed to come now. My whole body went cold. I grabbed my purse and ran to the door. I reached for my wallet. It wasn't there. I dumped my purse out. No wallet. No keycard. I ran to the bedroom. Elias was still asleep. I shook him awake. I told him about my mama. He sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes. I said I needed my wallet and the car keys. He said he'd put my wallet somewhere safe so I wouldn't lose it. He'd give it to me later. Later? My mama was in the hospital. He said he'd drive me, but he needed to shower first and make some calls. It would take an hour or two. I felt my world spinning. I ran to the door, but without a keycard, it wouldn't open. The smart locks needed either a keycard or a code. Elias had never given me the code. I pounded on that door until my knuckles were raw. I was trapped. Trapped in a luxury apartment while my mama was fighting for her life. I searched the apartment for my old tablet, the one I'd barely used. I found it under the bed, covered in dust. I charged it enough to turn on and opened the messaging app. I swallowed every bit of pride I had left and typed a message to Mr. Henderson. Please help me. I'm locked in apartment 1407. I can't get out. Please. I hit send and waited. 3 dots appeared on the screen. Then they stopped. My heart was racing. I didn't know if he'd believe me. I didn't know if he'd come. For a strong woman who'd spent her whole life helping others, typing those words was the hardest thing I'd ever done. I was admitting I'd lost. I was admitting I needed saving. The tablet screen went dark, and I waited. 20 minutes later, there was pounding on the door. But it wasn't just Mr. Henderson. It was the police. I heard radios and deep voices. They were doing a welfare check. They forced the apartment door open. I ran out, and at the same moment, Elias came running down the hall. He must have been out after all. He looked at the police, at me, at the broken door. His face changed instantly. He put on a concerned expression. He told the officers I was off my medication, that I'd been acting erratic lately. He said he was worried about me. He put his hand on my shoulder like a worried boyfriend. I felt my stomach turn. The officers looked at him in his expensive clothes, his calm voice. Then they looked at me. Wild hair. Red eyes. Barefoot. No wallet. No phone. I looked crazy. I looked exactly like what he'd described. One officer started to ask me if I was taking any medications. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. Then Auntie Rose came running down the hallway. Mr. Henderson must have called her too. She pushed through the officers and stood between me and Elias. She looked at him with fire in her eyes. She's leaving with me, Rose said. Her voice was steady, but I could hear the rage underneath. Elias tried to smile. He said I was upset and needed rest. He tried to take my arm. Rose slapped his hand away. Touch her again, and you'll be the one needing help. The hallway went silent. Neighbors had come out of their apartments. They were recording on their phones. Elias looked around, and I saw his mask slip. He tried to pull me toward the apartment. He said it was our home, that we needed to talk privately. Rose stepped forward. She was half his size but twice as fierce. She leaves with me, or she leaves in a body bag. Choose. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Elias changed tactics. He looked at the police and said they were trespassing. He said it was his apartment, his lease. He was the one who paid for everything. The officers looked confused. One of them asked if he had proof of residency. Elias stuttered. Something clicked in my brain. I remembered the lease signing. I grabbed the officer's arm. Check the lease, I said. My voice was hoarse, but it was strong. My name is on the lease. Check the landlord's records. The officer pulled out a tablet and made a call. We all stood there in the hallway, frozen. The officer listened, then looked up. He looked at Elias differently now. Sir, he said slowly, the lease is in Maya Johnson's name. This is her apartment. Elias's face went white. You've been living here under her name. Without paying. That's squatting, sir. The hallway erupted in whispers. Neighbors gasped. Elias's mouth opened and closed like a fish. The officer turned to him. Sir, step away from her door. The officer asked me what I wanted to do. I could let Elias stay the night and sort it out later, or I could evict him now. Elias's eyes got wet. He reached for me. He said he loved me. He said we could fix this. He said everything he'd done was because he wanted to build a future with me. He used our memories as weapons. He reminded me of our first date, of the plans we'd made. He was begging now. The neighbors were silent, watching. I looked at the apartment behind him, the marble floors and the city view. I'd given up so much for this place. Then I looked at Auntie Rose. She wasn't saying anything. She was just standing there, ready to catch me if I fell. I thought about my mama in the hospital. I thought about my catering van that I sold. I thought about the dinner where he ate steak and I ate noodles. I looked Elias in his eyes. I handed the officer my keycard. I watched as Elias packed his things into garbage bags. The irony wasn't lost on me. This was the same scene from the beginning, but now I understood who really belonged in the rain. The neighbors watched from their doorways as security escorted him out. His expensive clothes, his fancy watch, none of it mattered now. He looked small. He kept looking back at me, but I didn't look away. I wanted him to see me standing tall in the doorway of my apartment. The apartment that was always mine. He left with nothing but 2 trash bags and his pride in tatters. The same building where he'd brought 2 other women before me. The same building where he'd tried to trap me. Mr. Henderson gave me a sad smile as he escorted Elias to the street. I stood at the window and watched Elias stand on the pavement, looking up at my window. He was the one screaming now, but I couldn't hear him through the glass. I closed the blinds. 2 months later, I moved out of Skyline Heights. I couldn't stay in that apartment, even if it was mine. Too many bad memories soaked into those marble floors. I found a smaller place, nothing fancy, but the kitchen is big enough for my business. Auntie Rose gave me a loan, and I bought a used van. Not as fancy as the one I had before, but it's mine. I painted Maya's kitchen on the side myself. My business is growing again. Last week, I catered a wedding, and the bride cried when she tasted my mama's recipe. My mama recovered from her stroke. She's slower now, but she's here. Tonight, I'm hosting dinner at my new place. Auntie Rose, Lisa, and Mr. Henderson are coming. The apartment smells like jerk chicken and fried plantains. The windows are open, and music is playing. I'm singing while I cook, and nobody is telling me to be quiet. A palace where you have to whisper isn't a home. A small apartment where you can sing is a castle. I learned that the hard way. Watch this before you move in with someone. Make sure you're not just getting a key to a new place. Make sure you're not giving away the keys to yourself.